Hello and welcome to the Politics on Parrot TV. My name is Sainabou and I'll be your host today. And today we have the beautiful Gala sisters joining us. Our topic for today would be about, we're going to have a part two for the homosexual harassment. The topic will be adulteration and politicization of feminism in homosexual harassment and accusation. So kind of just moving forward from where we were just basically just asking how did people feel to kind of getting more in depth on how is it affecting such a huge movement such as feminism, and what are really the concerns that we're facing, how do people really genuinely feel, and what are the women saying. So today we're going to be doing that. We have about three other guests that are running a little late, so we're going to start with the Gala sisters today. Please give us a brief introduction about who you are, what do you do, and where you're from.
Okay, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Ria.
And we're the Gala sisters, and we're actually what we call Irish twins.
Yeah, which means we're 15 months apart or less.
So that's the introduction for our YouTube channel, which is called the Gala Sisters. And we are so happy to be partnering with you guys and, make sure that we're all subscribing to your channel. And we've grown very close over the years because we are both victims of domestic violence. And we are raising my 14-year-old daughter who has autism and a speech language disorder. So we've been through quite a bit in our lives. And I'm 35.
I'm 36. And we hail as of right now, from the great state of Minnesota,
where it is very nice and warm right now.
That's a big change from when it was cold and freezing.
Oh, yeah.
She's talking about negative 25. That was ridiculous. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And like she said, please do check out our YouTube pages, the Gala Sisters on YouTube, as well as the Parrot. Do subscribe, and we'll be here every Friday as usual. So getting forward, we're just going to go straight into it and ask, what is feminism to you ladies? I can start with Rhea.
Well, it's an important part of who we are. It means that we need to remember that women and men are equal. Women do not make anywhere near what men make on the dollar, and that is not fair. So we need to make feminism is trying to make everything as equal as possible.
Yeah. Would there be an agreement that both of you have that feminism is just based on equality? It's nothing more, nothing less?
Well,
that's kind of a really simple meaning to it.
That's a really huge meaning to it. I would also go on and add too that it comes down to systemic inequality, and we need to advocate more for women than we do need for men. Not saying we hate men or that men don't matter and we want men to leave, but that women generally get promoted less, that women get less health care, they get denied health care. We have horror stories of doctors not taking us seriously. We both had chronic illnesses. We've been sick since we were teenagers. And because it's not obvious, people don't take it seriously. Or I have been passed over for promotions. I've worked in the restaurant industry for over 20 years. I'm extremely qualified and very good at what I do. But I've been passed over for men, white, regular men who are less qualified because of what they look like and because they fit in more. And as you can see, I have green hair. She has purple hair. Sometimes that makes people think, oh, well, they're tiny, petite women and they have colored hair, so they must be stupid. And we have to deal with a lot of assumptions. And we have to fight harder for that equality that we all deserve. And it's ridiculous. Just because you are sick doesn't mean that you're stupid. Just because you look different doesn't mean that you're stupid. Just because we wear glasses doesn't mean that we're automatically nerds who don't know how to have fun. We make so many assumptions based on people. And you're wearing glasses too, and I'm sure that you.
I know. That's why I was like, I felt that one.
Yeah, we have to fight harder. I mean, it does come down to equality. That when you facing having a man versus a woman, you should choose who is more qualified for the job. But oftentimes that's not what happens. They go based on,
or would that be considered equity? Because that's kind of where it's like, are we fighting for equality or equity? Which one do we
I don't really see the difference. But
because when you say equality, we're asking just for basically like just treat us the same way you treat men. Well, like just that's just the simplest term I'm going to use it on for just people that would not understand. But
yeah,
when we're talking about equity, we're talking about we want to have what they can have without having the same prejudice added towards that, like without the bias being there. So that in turn you could say it could be more or less almost the same thing, but it's still kind of different because some people might say, well, then you're just saying you want to have the materialistic stuff that men have. Would
yeah.
that not be regarded as the respect, like you said, or the just being able to give them that chance to be like, you know what, I think she's a woman and she deserves a promotion, where so it's not like, oh, that's just a man and here you go. Because it's almost,
Yeah.
when you explain it like that's almost like that's how it goes, like, oh, you're a man, here's the promotion. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of women also do feel genuinely this way in their workplaces, and that is actually really relevant. So it's like I wanted to just kind of touch on that a little bit, between the difference between equality and equity.
Yeah, it comes down to the mindset. And when you have to sit there and remind yourself that let's not choose the one that everyone's gonna be okay with and not question, and we're gonna go based on public opinion, and you have to sit there and think, okay, well, maybe I should give them a chance. You shouldn't even be thinking that. That shouldn't even be something that you have to check yourself on. And we will get there eventually someday, but we're not there now. We're not.
But a lot of people don't believe that equality is possible, because as you can say, no two things are the same. It's kind of like our fingers. I like to say that a lot. I'm like, not one of our fingers are the same size. They don't even look the same. They're not the same length or anything. So can we really say that equality is possible?
Well, I'm an eternal optimist. We both are. Yeah. And we like to think that it is possible, and maybe not in our lifetime. But I mean, we did put a man on the moon, so that seemed impossible at one point. And I do think it is. And we're in Minnesota, where we are the land of protesting and riots. I mean, we get it done. We can make our point heard, and we get it done. And people shut down bridges here, and we've dealt with so much here, and we have seen some improvements. I mean, we haven't had a Republican governor in a long time.
Not since Pawlenty.
Yep, not since Pawlenty in 07. He was governor around that time. And we are a blue state, and we've kept it that way, which is a good thing.
Blue state since the 70s, I think.
Yeah. Small steps. We have to celebrate the small wins, or else we're just gonna get completely discouraged. And we've come a long ways. Sometimes we go backwards, and then we have to make up for it all over again. And I mean, I'm not lying. We do get discouraged. It is very discouraging, especially seeing what's going on with the Derek Chauvin trial and stuff like that. I mean, oh my God, I cannot believe this.
A lot's been happening with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of like even actually having such a movement like the Me Too movement stepping back, I know the Cuomos situation. Do you feel like that did affect the Me Too movement? It did kind of send us back maybe a few steps, because most people would actually say, especially online, they have the conversation going where people feel as though these are baseless claims, and these women are just using it for how to just kind of pull another man down the drain. And so it's almost like, you know, that story of a boy that cries wolf and there's no wolf. That's what it almost seems like. And so do you feel like this is setting feminism back, because that's not really what it's meant to be quote unquote used for?
I would definitely say that it does. I mean, Me Too was created by Alyssa Milano, and it was used to kind of say, like, you know, women are, you know, it almost like, you know, saying like, you know, well, such and such, like the Tom Reed situation, for example, that is much more true of the Me Too movement, and no one is talking about it.
Yeah. So Tom Reed, he's a representative, or
I think he's a representative.
He was in our great state of Minnesota and with his team, and he went to one of our awesome Irish bars back when, you know, bars were open mostly. And one of his employees was next to him while he was drinking, and he assaulted her, and she texted her friend, and she asked for help right there in the moment, but nobody's talking about that. I mean, it's been glossed over. And when you bring up frivolous allegations, you are setting it back for people who actually have been harassed and assaulted and discriminated against, because people don't take us seriously. I had an issue with someone the other day, and I tried to go talk about it, and they dismissed me. And I knew it was because they just don't take women seriously anymore. And it's not all the time, but especially right now with all this going on, like, oh, you're just trying to get people fired and stuff like that. And that's not true. So what these ladies are describing, if you break it down like we have, it doesn't stand up. Saying a pat on the back, or complimenting a necklace, or grabbing a waist during a picture, or handshake, or a Italian greeting with a kiss on the cheek, or saying ciao bella, which is hello beautiful in Italian, which is a normal greeting. Saying that that's harassment, it's just not. Real harassment is traumatizing, it's triggering, and it's not really something you want to talk about too much. And we talk somewhat about what we've gone through, but it took us years to get there, and we never name our ex-husbands. We're not out to get revenge when we talk about how terrible they were to us. We're not looking for vindication and sorry, morning. And it's saddening.
It's like there's like a disconnect between like what these people are saying and then like what really is sexual harassment. I mean, look back at 2018 when de Blasio was under the microscope for kissing female lawmakers, and nobody made a big deal out of it back then. And it's not that different.
No, it was investigated. He didn't even think about resigning, and then he's one of the first people to ask Andrew Cuomo to resign. And what about due process? Even how do you even prove these? And there isn't any proof. Nobody is corroborating their stories.
No, that was actually going to lead me to my other question, where it was you did explain how the the woman was assaulted and she called her friend right then and there. Now, when it came to the situation with Coma, one of his accusers, Boylan,
Yeah.
I believe her name is, she actually did accuse him. It was ridiculous, honestly speaking, and she went from that to asking her job again 3 days later after the situation, after speaking on how she was traumatized and she dreaded going to work all the time, and she just felt like it was a lot. She didn't know how to prepare for him, quote unquote, for what that day was going to be like for her. And to see such a person say, okay, 3 days later, okay, I'm kind of almost like I'm over it and I can go back to work. That is a scary feeling for some of us, because we read that and it's almost like, what is the real issue here? Is it that there's a position that you feel like you wanted and you wasn't given the chance, or is this a chance for you to kind of just push him down so you can fill in that spot? And I know there's a lot of people that are watching that kind of feel the same way. They're like, is this a plot to just kind of move him to find somebody that's more suitable for a different agenda that suits let's say in this case the bigger picture, than having Como stay in place? Because he was really helpful during last year when he was the one giving us actual facts and what was happening with the coronavirus instead of the last administration. So it almost looks like they're just trying to almost get rid of him for all the good work he did last year.
Yeah.
Guys, how is your community basically been feeling about that? I know you guys are from New York and you know a lot of New Yorkers. You have friends probably and family there. Like, how have they been handling that?
Well, we're not from New York, we're from Minnesota, but we have a lot of friends in New York, and the ones that we've been talking to just agree with what Andrew Cuomo and his father Mario Cuomo always said: stop playing politics. You're you're dealing with people's lives. You're using something very sensitive and very difficult and triggering as a weapon to, like you said, try and get your job back.
I mean, she did. She wanted, I mean, Boylan did want her job back, as far as I know. And then when Andrew's name came up to be the AG, which subsequently went to Merrick Garland in the end, she said that that's why she came forward. And her, again, none of these women's story is even staying the same. It's all every day. It's like, well, this happened. No, wait, I'm sorry. There was this. No, it was that. No, it was this.
So many people have so many good stories of their interactions with Andrew Cuomo. He helped me with this. His office helped me with that. And he personally took on my case. And when I complained to his office, he came down and he helped me. And when you hear people saying that, or he comforted me when I was going through something rough, and most people are not angry about his hugs and kisses on the cheek. It's the majority of people are very thankful that they have a governor who actually goes out there and cares.
I wish our governor did that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people wish their governors did that. But that actually goes back to what the education system, where it's like, do they need to teach people these different cultures so that it would not bring further confusion? Because most of these allegations, when Red and I talk to your Italian friends, it's almost like, I do that every day. If that is sexual harassment, I'm sexually harassing everybody I know, because I literally that's how they agreed. So it's understandable to those of us that know. Now, do you believe the education system needs to kind of improve to help so that this situation doesn't continue to occur in places of work?
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, we need to be better educated in treating everyone the way that other people, that way that you would like to be treated. Because I feel like that's a problem all across the map, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be, you know, people not understanding different cultures. And, you know, we're both asexual women, people always say, oh, something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is a serious problem.
Yeah. And I think that we need to learn how to acknowledge cultural differences and accept them. And we need to learn conflict resolution in school too, so that if we get someone like Lindsay Boylan who's angry with her boss, she just doesn't fly off the handle on Twitter and starts screaming and crying and begging for quit your job in a fit of rage and then ask for it back. We really should put more focus in schools about how to handle an uncomfortable situation. And one of the girls who said that Ciao Bella was grooming or whatever, and it was inappropriate, she went to her parents and asked them for advice.
And what she should have done is she should have gone and said, excuse me, Andrew, I don't understand what that means. You know, could you please explain it to me? And then she was like, well, he hugs and kisses everybody. Yes, he's Italian. The French do it too. And some Irish people even do it.
But her parents said, oh yeah, he's hitting on you. You should definitely take that very seriously. And her parents should have known better.
I mean, if she lives in New York, I mean, isn't there a huge Italian population in New York and a huge French population? And I think the Puerto Ricans are like that too.
They have a large Hispanic unit in New York. That's Puerto Rican. And that's actually really true. The cultural difference, I believe, does add a big issue in this, but some people do believe that's just an excuse. Your culture should not be an excuse for how other people feel towards it. So are we here, in this case, would you say, if you're pro-Cuomo, are you ignoring these women's feelings? Are you ignoring how they feel like they've been represented, or how they feel like they've been, well, in this case, harassed? Do you feel like that means you're against the women when you're pro-Cuomo?
Well, that's not really the case at all. Like the case of Tom Reed, she asked for help in the moment. She texted her friend and asked for help, and she got the help that she needed. If you don't explain to someone when they are acting in a way that they act around everyone, that you're not comfortable with how they're acting, they're not going to know to stop. and they didn't even give Andrew Cuomo a chance to stop acting like that around them. For instance, you better not be kissing me, because if you ate a strawberry, I am not gonna be able to breathe, and I'm gonna have to go use my EpiPen. So I would tell people that if I were around Andrew Cuomo, I'd be like, please don't do that. And not to be mean, but I'm sure he would listen. If they always say any sort of touching that you don't want is inappropriate, but everyone's level of comfortability is different. How are you supposed to know if people aren't saying, we're coming in for a picture and you grabbed me and you freaked me out, if you don't say, hey, too tight, I'm really small, remember you're bigger than me. If you don't,
So basically, just people need to learn how to communicate better.
And throwing a fit years later, it's like, he's probably like, this is the first I'm hearing of this. I didn't know I made you upset. I would have stopped.
It's like they just kind of decided that all of a sudden this behavior that he has experienced for over 40 years is not appropriate. And I don't understand that.
And that's fine if it makes you uncomfortable, you don't like it, but you got to say it.
Vocalize.
Yeah.
Vocalize. My mother always said that. She said you have to vocalize when you're uncomfortable, because people don't know you're uncomfortable, only you do.
Yeah.
But do you believe that the media kind of had a huge play on this? They were judge, jury, and execution in this whole matter. Now, do you believe that we gave too much power to the media to have this happen so quickly and rapidly?
Yes, media is given way too much freedom, and they're given, like, people like Justin Kinley or Jake Tapper are so willing to, like, just throw Andrew away and just be like, oh my God, he's a terrible person, and oh my God, and I don't want to talk to him. And it's like they just jump down his throat, and they all act like, we should believe everything we hear. And it's like, well, you should believe everything you hear, because it's the age-old additive. You could run up and down the street and you could scream the moon is made of green cheese for 30 hours and it wouldn't change it.
Yeah, we took due process out of the media, and if we are going to have trial by media, we need to have due process in the media. And that's why we love what you're doing. Even though it's a small channel, it's still great that you're trying, and that's why we love teaming up with you, because we're small too, and we are presenting the news and cases like this in a fair way. And if they're not going to do it, then we need to do it.
I believe that is very true. If you have to handle it for yourself, and we appreciate that compliment, by the way. Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry about that. I believe in a sense everyone is just trying to do their best to understand what is going on, and without having any bias in the situation. Because at first I believe a lot of people were just upset because it's sensitive, because it's women we're talking about. Yeah. And especially in this time that we're in, women have gone through a lot. The Me Too movement brought a lot of things like forward, and with everything that happened last year and this year, the pandemic, it made it even more difficult and a little bit even more sensitive. And so it's almost like walking on glass. And with that, like, what can you say to women basically to kind of just like be like incentive of, we need to be careful? Like, what would your advice be to women?
Well, we live in the great country, the United States, where we do have free speech.
And we're also a melting pot, and we have to remember that there's more than one culture here.
Yeah, and we have free access to education, and we also are allowed to speak up. You're allowed to get divorces here. You're allowed to quit your job, and you can advocate for yourself in America. It's not perfect. However, compared to some other countries where your husband can just lock you away in a closet and forget about you, that doesn't happen as much here, because it is incredibly illegal and we take it very seriously. So just remember that if you're being treated terribly by your boss, you can leave. And that is extremely powerful. If your husband is being terribly cruel to you, you can get a divorce. And that is so amazing. And I think we sell ourselves short sometimes by saying, well, but what will people think of me if we get divorced? We're divorced from our exes, and it's not easy, it's not fun, but it's possible.
I think that women are too apt to say, well, I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to do whatever I can to make that uncomfortableness felt around the world. And like, well, you were not there, but I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to throw anybody under the bus I can.
We think that, having been divorced ourselves, we think that Andrew Cuomo's recent breakup triggered some of this, because people like to pick on people who are going through something, and most of the time breakups are really hard. And even if you wanted the breakup and it was good for you, it's still an adjustment period, and you may be a little more snappy. You may just not be able to handle things as well as you did before, and you'll trip and fall, and you get back up and you'll figure out your new normal. But people kind of, they see one sign of weakness and they pounce on it.
And they never stop. I mean, once these people started coming out of their woodwork, a kiss on the hand. Marilyn Monroe, when she was in, some Dunbar Girl's Best Friend, she said a kiss on the hand might be white continental. Like, that was a totally normal thing. Or like, shaking hands with someone, like, why is shaking hands with someone? I mean, yes, the pandemic has changed culture, who knows for how long, but we got to remember that some of these are so old and so ridiculous that it doesn't matter that, this happened this many years ago, because at one point in time, that was the cultural norm. And they're taking what Andrew said about no hugs, no kisses, they're taking it too far.
They're like, Andrew, you taught us too well. You got to bring us back from the edge.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, that one got to me. That got to me because that is actually really how. So I read a comment on Facebook and somebody really said that. They said, he taught us this. They're basically using what he said last year and changing the social norm now and just kind of reporting him for what he taught us to do. And that was funny for me to read, and hearing you said that, it's actually very interesting. So with that, any last words? We have about 5 minutes left.
Don't forget,
I guess,
that
what would be the advice to New Yorkers right now?
Don't forget that there
What
is
would you
an
advise
election.
New Yorkers right
Yes, there's an election. I mean, there's another election, and there's all these guys coming out of the woodwork, all these Republicans. And we got to remember that, it could be that people don't want Trump wants a pardon. Don't forget that.
So he wants to get someone like his son Don Jr. or Rudy Giuliani's son Andrew in there, or who knows who else he might be working with that will get him that pardon so that he can come back in full force. And desperate people will do almost anything, and elections are extremely brutal and just nasty in this country. So people will say anything in order to win.
Miss Morris, I believe, how are you?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I couldn't seem to get on.
Yes.
So I'm glad to see all you ladies,
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, you caught us. We have about 5 minutes left here.
Yes, that's okay. I don't have a lot to say.
Thank you so much for finally coming on. We appreciate that.
No, I thank you for letting me be here too. I appreciate everything you ladies have been saying. And I'm calling as a concerned citizen. I happen to be a creative artist, which is why I love living in New York State, because it's considered to be a real profession in New York. And they're trying to rebuild New York using the arts. I'm also a voter, and I don't appreciate being disenfranchised by people who are simply trying to twist around the political system for their own purposes. And I think it's pretty obvious that's what's going on with this. And it's just disgusting that they're bringing out people to lie about someone who's shown themselves to be such a great, enthusiastic worker for the people. I don't know of anyone who works as hard or who could have brought us through this terrible COVID crisis that we're going through. So, I think it's ridiculous that the only thing they can think of to try to get the governor out of his office is to come up with all these scandals, which that other people are doing but he's one of those few people who doesn't do those kind of things. So it's just really outrageous. So I'm here to help express, that, because it's just, as a concerned citizen, I'm concerned that the due process isn't being followed and that kind of thing is being established. But also because this is a really good
Do you
person
believe the media is the
and a really
reason
great
why there's
worker.
no due process?
Because they can't do it through the courts. They know that these are very weak stories. They want to try to do it through the press and make pressure on him. Now, I think if he were guilty, it would be easier for them to make pressure. But first of all, I don't believe he is guilty. And he has said he's not guilty. And I think if he were, he would actually admit he was guilty, which is unlike some people. Some people are going to pretend they're not guilty, and they are. But I don't think by his behavior, just look for 101 days straight, he came to us every single day with information about the COVID. When is he going to do all these other things that these people are claiming he was doing? It's pretty obvious what his character is. So I join in other people in objecting to this entire nonsense well, he is Dr. Cuomo now. They gave him an honorary doctorate. But also because it also sets a dangerous precedent for everyone. Because if you can make people quit their jobs just because someone makes an accusation, and we know in history, unfortunately, people have lost their lives because people made untrue accusations. That's why we supposedly have due process, to try to figure out what really did happen before any punishment or exoneration is applied.
We have a
So,
minute left, so I'd just like to ask really quickly, what advice would you give fellow New Yorkers, just yourself, right now with everything going on as a community? Like, what would you kind of just tell them, like, this is how I feel like we kind of need to just look at things?
you mean what kind of advice I would give the community? You say?
Yes.
I would say that when this country was formed, it was designed to be a participatory government. In other words, people have to stop being so apathetic and they have to participate. And they have to listen. After a while, they'll try to ignore it. But when we vote, we get out and we express ourselves. People have to listen. Things will change. That's my advice.
Thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we had you for a little moment, but thank you so much for adding to our day. The Gala sisters, you guys have been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time talking to all of
We
you.
did too.
I gathered a lot of information, and believe our viewers felt the same way. Today was really actually a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Please, guys, do go subscribe to the Gala Sisters on YouTube, as well as Parrot TV on YouTube. We'll be there. Check in on us every Friday at 11 a.m. and at 12 p.m. Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us.